Hello everyone, welcome to my review of The Day of the Doctor. So, I've had a little bit of time to think about this. I've taken more time on this review than I normally would, simply because it's an interesting episode to look at. Pretty much everyone I know has some flaw somewhere along the line with it. But yeah, this episode was filled with missed opportunities, which I knew was going to happen, but I just wish Stephen Moffat had at least give fans something. Yes, there were small things, but there's so much more he could have done, and I feel it was disappointing for fans, and I think lots of fans were disappointed by all these missed opportunities. And it wasn't just classic Doctors coming back. There was a lot of hype surrounding this episode, from the really awesome 1 minute trailer, all the animation thing going through the years of the Doctor and everything, to the 50th anniversary celebration, which I visited, to the big cinema screen for the Day of the Doctor in 3D, which I went to. There are a lot of people with fezzes, so I think that's sort of become a bit of a trendsetter now. But overall, was it all worth it? Not really, no. I personally felt it was another episode of Doctor Who, a special episode of Doctor Who with 2 more Doctors than usual. There wasn't really much else there. Yes, there was the Time War, say what you will, but we had the End of Time focusing on the Time War as well. And it brings up plot holes such as, surely the Time Wars are meant to be insane at this point. Okay, granted they didn't focus on the High Council, so that's why you don't have Timothy Dalton in there, as much as that is a missed opportunity. Yes, it is, Mr. Moffat. There could be a reason behind that, though, because it is Timothy Dalton at the end of the day. However, that is a problem. That's one of the reasons the Doctor wiped out the Time Lords and the Daleks, so that completely goes over that thing, which they even addressed in The Night of the Doctor, the Paul McGann prequel, which was actually better than this episode and more fan service. But, yeah, oh well. The reason this episode is a bit of a disappointment is because not only did we have the fantastic An Adventure in Space and Time earlier that week, not only did we have that, we had the Night of the Doctor prequel, which pretty much everyone likes, and we had, a couple of hours later, we had the 5-ish Doctors reboot, which, in my opinion, was the best thing to come out of the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. Probably joint with the Night of the Doctor with McGann. This isn't quite the scale everyone wanted it to be, which is a pity. But I guess in a way that shows how much the BBC don't actually care too much about Doctor Who. Yes, it's got 50 years and they've got all this merchandise and stuff, but for the actual show itself, there's really not that much there. There's plenty more they could have had, but that's just budget, and that's a bit of a disappointing fact. Isn't it? My first problem with the episode comes with there's just nothing drawing on from the name of the Doctor, so there's no 6 months later or anything, so whether they're going to do a mini episode, which it doesn't appear to be, so that follows on from the name of the Doctor into the Day of the Doctor, which, yeah, seems unlikely. Seriously, why did we have The Last Day, also known as the most pointless thing ever made, when we could have had something carrying on from the name of the Doctor into the Day of the Doctor? I just find that weird. But, oh well. Guess it's just one of those things. The episode also, there was Billie Piper returns, not as Rose Tyler as such, but as the Moment in the form of Rose Tyler, or the Bad Wolf. Nice little idea there, however it does feel pretty just stupid because it's John Hurt. If Christopher Eccleston was there and she was talking to Christopher Eccleston, it'd make more sense, or even David Tennant, but it's just the fact that it's just John Hurt. It just, not only does it bring up the obvious plot hole of surely he'd recognise her later on, but also, well, she's just pointless. Also, the Daleks don't kill anyone. Throughout the entire story, the Daleks don't kill anyone. That's sort of disappointing, really. The Daleks are essentially there because it's a time war, but the fact that the Daleks just don't kill anyone. That's not really a war. You're going to show a war, yet you're not going to kill anyone. That just feels a bit stupid, really. They're happy to kill Daleks off, but not Time Lords. Okay. There are some very cleverly seeded elements of the story that I quite like. And when you re-watch it, you understand actually how clever the story is, and the elements surrounding Gallifrey. It's pretty much hinted at from the very, very beginning with John Hurt. You just have to kind of look out for it. And it's a story that does benefit from at least a second viewing, which is a common theme in Doctor Who recently. You gotta watch the story twice to actually get it. The Zygons took practically centre stage for most of this episode, and I don't have a problem with that as such, but there's no actual conclusion to the Zygons. The whole Zygon plotline of the story is simply left open, which is just a form of lazy writing, if I'm perfectly honest, because we're not going to see that in the Time of the Doctor, the Christmas special. We're not going to see it again. So, that's it. That's just a bit stupid, really. Seriously, how did that literally get through? Or, editing and stuff? The episode definitely could have been longer, and that is another common theme with Doctor Who. It's simply Stephen Moffat wrote the story and forgot to go over the bit with the Zygons because no one saw that as particularly relevant. Which, true, it isn't relevant necessarily to the overall story no matter how Stephen Moffat tries, but it's a nice element of the story. But the fact that the Zygons take too much centre stage in the first place, if they didn't take so much centre stage, it wouldn't be so much of a problem. It feels like a small plotline in the story, however it becomes a pretty big plotline because of the paintings. So, yeah. Problem. / plot hole. Yeah. Another problem I did have with the story, this is sort of my biggest problem overall, is that end scene where Matt Smith walks out and there's all the other Doctors there. Not only do they just, from behind, they don't look like the Doctors at all. It's really obvious, especially with Peter Davison in particular, I notice. Oh, that's not Peter Davison, that's some horrible person wearing a blonde wig. It doesn't even look like Peter Davison from behind. And it actually doesn't. The hair colour's wrong for pretty much all of them. Body proportions are wrong. And then you pan it out and it just looks horrible, really. Why couldn't they have just had 2D images there of all the Doctors, like hologram type things? That would have been so much better. Or, even better, they could have had, hologram images perhaps for the first, second and third Doctors, and all the other Doctors, just have that aged counterparts. I guess Christopher Eccleston, I can understand. Get a hologram of him. But, at least for the, all the Doctors who were willing to do it. I mean, come on, they didn't even have Paul McGann in it. Come on, I just feel that's a really stupid thing to do. And I just think that's a really stupid thing to do. The Zygons were very good. I liked the Zygons. I thought the comedy in the episode was really good. The little banter between all three of the Doctors I thought was really good. Especially the scene in the jail cell was brilliant. And I think John Hurt was just fantastic. The whole... Again with the pointing. What are you going to do? Assemble a cabinet at them? Lines like that just sort of really made the episode, and I think the whole sequence with the TARDIS hovering above London was really cool. Sure, a couple of shots, a little bit dodgy, but it doesn't really matter because it's Doctor Who. I thought the episode looked great in 3D, and on the big screen I thought it looked really, really good. I really liked all the references, the Totters Lane, Scrapyard, Coal Hill School, the fact that Chesterton is running Coal Hill School now. It said, I think it was Headmaster I. Chesterton. And the sort of reconstructed original title scene was really nice. A couple of people complained there should have been a special one. I doubt BBC would have put all the money in there for a special one as well. But the end sequence was cool, and I thought the theme was good. They've sort of sorted out the beginning bit, I think, that bugged a lot of people. It didn't bug me necessarily, I just thought, well, yeah, for the next Doctor, there'll be a new intro, or who knows, that'll become a regular thing. doesn't look like it anymore, but I thought the baseline was really nice. They sort of reworked the baseline a bit. Yeah, I really like that new theme. I hope that carries on for as long as they can possibly make it carry on for, because Marigold has a habit with changing Doctor Who theme a lot recently. How many themes have we had since the Snowmen? A lot. That's about 4, including the Snowmen thing, because we had an alternate one in Cold War, I think. Definitely had an alternate one somewhere online in Series 7B, and then had a Series 7B main one in Snowmen, of course, and now we got one at the end of the Day of the Doctor. So yeah, I like that. I think the Blue Vortex works good, works very well. I can still perfect it, but I'm not so bothered about it. I'm trying to think what else is there in the story. Clara's role in the story, I kind of liked. We still don't know that much about Clara, but I'm wondering, it's meant to have some of her relatives in the Christmas special, so perhaps that's sort of where we sort of begin to focus more on Clara as we get a new Doctor, because I think that's the idea that they're going to do for Series 8. Because this new Doctor is going to be strange and stuff for people, so they've got a companion to keep the audience going. So either that means they're going to expand upon Clara, or they're just going to carry on with Clara as she is. I think it doesn't matter so much at the moment with Clara. However, it's going to become a problem, definitely in later episodes, and I think we definitely do need an episode soonish focused around Clara. A lot more, which could be what they decide to do with Peter Capaldi. Maybe, it starts a bit like Colin Baker. You've got the companion sort of keep the audience going through it. He's a bit dodgy, which I think is meant to be the idea for Peter Capaldi as the next Doctor. Another tiny thing with the episode was the I don't want to go bit. I think Matt Smith made it a lot better with the... Yeah, he always says that. But... I just don't like that whole thing with David Tennant, the I don't want to go. David Bradley does it so much better, not only because of that, but just because it's just... Never mind. It was great seeing Tom Baker back again. I was really happy when I saw that. It's going to be one of those mysteries that's going to be left for fans. I know people have complained, oh god, they're never going to answer that. I don't think they're ever going to answer that, because I think it's very, very unlikely. Personally, I don't want them to answer it. It's like the Valiard. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's up to fan interpretation. I mean, who knows? He might not even have been real. I'm sure there's some excuse you could come up with to why he isn't real. But personally, I'm happy with, that is just sort of one of the mysteries of Doctor Who. And I thought it was great seeing Tom Baker back again. Seeing Matt Smith and Tom Baker together again was brilliant. I was very happy to see that. Clara's now a teacher, which is an interesting development. I guess it's not quite as random as Amy Pond's careers, but yeah, I think that's a nice little thing, the fact that she's now teaching at Coal Hill School. Hopefully that'll become more regular, perhaps in Series 8. Perhaps when, the Doctor takes Clara home for a home adventure, like they did with Rose Tyler a lot. Perhaps we'll get to see sort of more things about Coal Hill School and stuff. Perhaps we can have like an episode where the Doctor's posing as a teacher there or something, because I think that'd be a nice idea. Peter Capaldi's cameo was very nice. I thought the scene with all the Doctors coming together was very good. Lots of people complained it was just archive footage. Yeah, that bit I don't really care about. It's just that end scene that bothers me. I was happy to see the archive footage, really, because sort of there. Yeah, people are gonna pick out plot holes with that. There's tiny little plot holes you're always gonna be able to pick out with things. So I'm not bothered about that. It's gonna be one of those tiny little things that people niggle at, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, just seeing Peter Capaldi, just sort of making that cameo appearance, I think it's worth it. And sort of seeding his Doctor in quite early on, I think, is a really nice idea. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what they're going to do for the Time of the Doctor, the next episode. Interested to see where they're going to go with the Gallifrey elements. But yeah, I think I did enjoy many elements of this episode, however there are really obvious problems with it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. However, there were some really great moments. The humour was good. Some of the dialogue was great. David Tennant wasn't particularly irritating. Yes, the story would have worked much better with Christopher Eccleston in. Even Paul McGann. I think Christopher Eccleston and Paul McGann should have been in it. David Tennant, I guess you could have still had in it, but I think that works. You know, the Doctor before the Time War, the Doctor during the Time War, the Doctor straight after the Time War, the Doctor sort of getting over the Time War, which I think would have added to the story a lot more. You know, the whole bickering thing I thought was really, really nice. You know, Grandad, Chinny, and Sand Shoes. I really liked it. The scene with the door, yeah. John Hurt's TARDIS, I quite liked. I thought the round things were quite cool. I liked that bit as well. You like that bit. Not sure why the consoles, like Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant, it looks similar, but I think it sort of stands out a bit too much. But I'm not going to have a huge problem with that. That's nothing I'm going to be too bothered about. But you know, Doctor's budget isn't endless, sadly. But yeah, overall, I like the episode. However, there were some problems with it, so 8 out of 10. Other stories I've decreased marks anyway, so don't feel like I'm being extra nasty on this one. But yeah, I would recommend seeing this story. It's a good story. Try not to think about it too much, I think is something you gotta do. I definitely recommend seeing the Five-ish Doctors reboot. Even a friend of mine who wasn't really a fan of Doctor Who said actually the Five-ish Doctors reboot was really, really good. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was one of the funniest, if not the funniest thing I've seen all year. So it was great. So yeah, do go and watch that. The behind the scenes is quite interesting to the Day of the Doctor if you like that kind of thing. But yeah, so I'll see you guys next time. Most likely it'll be for my review of The Time of the Doctor at Christmas. I'll see you then.